This certainly looks different than Saturday night where we had the prom, and I just want to express thanks to the junior class and to people like Dr. Rader and others that planned a great event. The students and the families were delighted to have that celebration in here. And it's obviously a gift to have a building like this to come in here for events like that. Friday afternoon around 5 p.m., several of you saw a horrific accident in front of the Kroger on Harding Road in Belmead. It involved the sister of one of our graduates who feels awful, and Mr. Sharble. He was in the far right lane going west. She was waved to turn into the western entrance at Kroger, and they didn't see one another. You've been in that scenario. Some of you have been driving. Somebody would wave you to turn, and somebody in the far right lane might be coming and not see one another. So it was a really tough accident. Mr. Sharble was taken to the trauma unit at Vanderbilt. And I know a little bit about that because our daughter works there. She's a doctor at Vanderbilt, and I called her Friday night just to get a little bit more information, and she said almost any accident that has some trauma to it, people are sent immediately to that trauma unit at Vandy locally. Throughout the weekend, I've been in touch with Mr. Sharble's family. The news is that he is in very critical condition, and we just need to be hopeful and prayerful that he will be okay. There's no question that he would want us to carry on and do what we should do best, and that is just make sure we take care of each other, do our work, and do a good job. Obviously, during this time, I would urge all of you to be very thoughtful and respectful and prayerful about him and his family. His classes we've covered in his advisory, and I know you will do a good job in his absence. He's someone I've gotten to know very well over the last 16 years, just to amplify somewhat of how I see him. He was in the Marines as a career officer for 20 plus years or so, and came to MBA. He's taught history and has been head of our riflery program. But I've gotten to know him on a personal level. He went through some family challenges. He was divorced. He actually left MBA for a year, going through some tough times, and came back. In the last period of time, whether, I don't know if it's 5 to 10 years, has been terrific. He's been happy. He got remarried. He loves being here. He wrote me, I bet 3 to 4 times a week over the last months just to say, I hope you're doing well today, and I hope you're going to be okay, and I've said a prayer for you, as you know, of course, my sickness. And you might see him as a military guy, but behind that persona, there's a loving, caring individual that we want to care about. And so I will give you updates as soon as I know, but that is what I know right now. And I thought the best thing I could do this morning was to be direct about what happened and where he is, and just say a few things about him on a personal level. You can see from the campus, I'm switching gears now, that we're taking down the tents, so gradually, as you see, we're eliminating the mitigations we've had. We're back in the dining hall, which reminds me to say to you, please keep the chairs in the places where you find them in the dining hall. We're trying to get the lawns back into shape, so I know it takes a little bit more time to walk on the sidewalks, but please remember that on the campus now, because we want to get the campus back into shape. I know not everybody's excited about the dress code coming back into existence, but you do have a little modifications. We're letting you wear athletic shoes and shorts, but please adhere to the other expectations. Some of you know I've been interested personally in going to probably more of a uniform because I think it'd be simpler. And you wouldn't have to decide what to wear every day, and it wouldn't be, and I also think wearing shorts during the warmer weather would be a good idea. So maybe all of this will help us come out of that particular aspect of the school in a better way. We're doing lots more events like the prom I mentioned at the very beginning of Assembly. We're about to put some bike racks up around the campus, so those of you interested in riding bikes there are some already in the dining hall, but there'll also be some spread around the campus, 10 of them to be specific. I wanted to remind the seniors that there is a picnic on Wednesday afternoon at 6:30 for seniors and their families, and the theater department has timed things so that you can go to one acts. I believe they're at 4 o'clock, if I'm right, on Wednesday, and so that allows for the seniors to do both. So please note the schedule this week. I think that's all the preliminary information I wanted to mention. I want to move now into the college essay contest. I wanted to mention that the essay contest was actually the idea of a graduate named Stephen Bess, who finished MBA in 1995. He thought that he learned a lot about writing in MBA, and he felt particularly indebted to Dr. Pascal, who was his English teacher his junior year. So he talked with me about setting up this competition. The real value is that the competition allows the underclassmen to think about writing an essay and to think about making that essay authentic and interesting and personal in a way that does not seem like a formula, doesn't seem like a canned talk. Are you going to say anything, Ms. Maddox, or you want me to go right into it? Okay, so we are glad to have today Ms. Rains, Dr. Kinch, and Ms. Leanne Bachland from Sewanee, who is their Dean of Admissions. We're grateful to you, Leanne, for driving down this morning and for being part of this. The process will be that each of the 4 students behind me will come up one at a time, and I think Eman is going to come first. By the way, I should just give Eman, well, I'll do that later. So Eman and then Andrew, et cetera, alphabetically, they decided on that order before Assembly. So they will read their essays, the judges will then make their notes, and then we'll have a sort of interlude of time where we'll hear some music and a few announcements, and then they'll come up and announce the winner. So join me in welcoming our first senior to the podium.
Oreo. This is not a story about one of your favorite cookies, the chocolate wafers that sandwich a sliver of white cream. To me, the word Oreo represents an identity crisis, one I was forced to reckon with in the summer of 2019. Every second felt like an eternity in the blistering Nashville summer heat. I was waiting for my junior year English teacher, Mr. Kelly, to take me to the Tearing Down the Walls Southeastern Race and Leadership Conference. When Mr. Kelly arrived, we chatted about our summer and how we thought I would have a great time. I nodded my head and smiled. Little did I know that this 2-day conference would be the most fulfilling time of my entire life. Upon arrival, I lugged my bags into Vanderbilt University's Student Life Center, where I met the rest of the campers. The room was mostly filled with black and brown faces. Acclimated to a world governed by white peers, I felt refreshed to see so many students who looked like me. The feeling of, I'm different, disappeared. Here, I was just Emmanuel Barrett, not the black kid who acts white. The conference leaders divided us into groups of 6 students. We watched video examples of microaggressions, and I quickly realized that I was watching a video of my life. After finishing the videos, we wrote on note cards a list of characteristics and affiliations that have caused microaggressions. I wrote, well-spoken, honorable, suburban life, tennis, honors classes. All seemingly normal things that no one should think twice about. But for me, white people have always dictated that my actions and achievements equate to whiteness. In their eyes, the only real black people are the ones who follow stereotypes portrayed through media and whitewashed history books. They deny the diversity of talents that exist within the black community. Memories flooded in my head as our table broke out into a discussion about past experiences. You're an Oreo. You're not like other black people. Really, just like a white person. I have become numb to these phrases at my predominantly white private school. Another camper named Amari and I share countless stories of what our white friends have said to us. We went on and on about how they thought they were complimenting us by calling us different and like them, but they were doing the exact opposite. They were creating rifts. To them, I wasn't black and I wasn't white. I was just other. On the conference's last day, the teachers and students from my school gathered to discuss what we learned. We promised to bring the ideals and atmosphere of this conference back with us. I charged myself to cultivate an inclusive culture on campus, especially for students who do not fall into the cookie-cutter, white, Judeo-Christian heteronormativity of private schools. The Tearing Down the Walls conference empowered me to ensure that current and future students in minority communities will feel more comfortable at my school than I had. Since the conference, I have been pursuing my goals. In the wake of recent Black Lives Matter protests, my school finally decided to remove a Confederate statue from campus. A number of white alumni, students, and faculty disliked its removal. As a counterpoint to the criticisms, I interviewed black members of the Nashville community on their perspective on Confederate monuments. The interviews were published in this school's paper to amplify black voices. Sharing the interviews with the school was a worthwhile experience because many families, faculty members, and students appreciated the interviewees' insightfulness on how Confederate monuments affect the black community. I hope to continue my passion for inclusion on a college campus and beyond. I will always learn from people of different backgrounds and stand up for those who are underrepresented. My name is Emmanuel Barrett, and I am not your Oreo. I succeed because of, not in spite of, my blackness. Thank you.
Driving down that infamous street, I passed the looming building, my former elementary school. The colorful playground evokes traumatic memories, yet I can't resist letting out a triumphant smile. I remember my 5-year-old self, alone in the corner of my preschool class, watching my peers laughing and playing as if the world were one big happy family. Mrs. Catherine, my devoted and supportive teacher, encourages me to play with them, but I remain silent, barely talking. I was selectively mute. I couldn't overcome the mental wall of anxiety. Occasionally, I would attempt to scale the wall, only to fall down the next day. I felt fearful, isolated from everyone. Kindergarten was no different. I distinctly remember drawing stick figures of my family while my tears would drip down onto the paper and disfigure the very images that gave me comfort. I tried to venture out of my comfort zone, but it is not easy to escape one's own mind. I didn't think that I would ever climb over that mental wall. My parents strongly disagreed with me. In an effort to improve my outcome, they made the incisive decision to upend our family structure, a change requiring sacrifice from everyone. My father would sell his company and become the home educator of me and my brother. My mother would accept a promotion at her green energy company, a choice requiring 3 to 4 nights of travel per week to address the income shortfall. My brother, a school standout academically and socially, would leave his established place to join me in homeschool. My father spent weeks researching the best and most challenging curriculum. Though the strict nature of the lessons often led to arguments, I learned how to work hard, how to work diligently, and how this difficult effort in the present will result in a better future. My father imparted a passion for knowledge that continues to motivate me every day. The most important thing I learned, though, was that I am an autodidact. I took to things quickly, specifically in the field of mathematics, as I found math to be the most interesting subject. I quickly pursued this passion. The freedom of homeschool allowed me to accelerate through math textbooks and lessons. My pursuit of knowledge helped soothe my anxiety. As more became known, less became unknown. Homeschooling also gave me the opportunity to travel with my mother. Traveling on her business trips crucially improved my emotional intelligence. I often observed her as she interacted with superiors, subordinates, friends, clients, and even famous politicians. Her ability to regulate her emotions in times of stress and develop a rapport with each individual had a demonstrably positive impact on her career. Her brilliant interactions at work served as an incredible example, one I continue to model. Her drive and energy, paired with my father's rigor and discipline, pulled me and pushed me to conquer my anxiety. While my parents do not conform to traditional gender roles, I wouldn't change anything about my transformative experiences. I went from sitting in the corner, fearful and silent, to now being able to stand tall and excel in high-pressure situations. As a kicker for the varsity football team, I'm able to cope with the immense pressure of having the spotlight on my performance. And my success as a kicker has shown me the development of my mental toughness. My experiences have enhanced my understandings of others' unique challenges, visible and invisible, and my own struggles help me empathize with those invisible barriers. I strive to continue improving emotionally, academically, and socially, but I know it is not a zero-sum game. I can help others succeed, and they can help me succeed. That is why I smile whenever I drive by my old elementary school. I think of how that mental wall has become a staircase for me and others to climb. Thank you.
Sealand is a real place. I'm not talking about SeaWorld or some other oceanside amusement park. Off the coast of Essex, there's a tiny micronation with a population of 27. The man-made structure consisting of a platform resting upon 2 pylons was designed to fend off Nazi air raids. And later it housed a broadcasting station playing music which the BBC deemed as inappropriate and illegal. Now, the history of the Principality of the Sealand unraveled in swashbuckling mishaps and adventures, the words of Prince Michael. I cannot recall where I first heard about Sealand. Maybe it was drawn from a random YouTube video or a dive down the rabbit hole of Wikipedia. Fascinated by this micronation, I punched the Contact Us tab on sealandgov.org and pitched a few burning questions. Less than 24 hours later, I received a nondescript message in my inbox from His Highness Prince Michael. Now, could this really be the prince, or was someone scamming me? Maybe so, but as our Q&A activated, my inbox began to swell. Now, how did you defend Sealand from British workmen on nearby buoys and from interested German investors? I was always taught by my father how to stand up for myself with both of my fists and later with small arms training. Have you heard anything about German investors forming a government in exile? No, they have this massive website promoting Nazi rubbish and supernatural beliefs. Prince Michael's charm and cavalier attitude roped me into an odd yet addictive conversation. Months later, my AP European history teacher assigned a documentary project on 20th century Europe. And I thought, why not Sealand? The micronation's anonymity and unique place in the UK's Cold War history made it an ideal subject. A story of pirate radio, the invasion of 1978, and the struggle for national sovereignty cannot be completed alone. So with minimal persuasion, I yanked my friend aboard. My history teacher, however, needed a bit more convincing. So in response to his denial, I drafted a longer email for my second attempt, abbreviating the troubled history of a country whose landmass was barely the length of a football field. And it went like this. Hi, Mr. Story. I want to make a case for Sealand. Several months ago, I reached out to the Prince of Sealand, and we've been exchanging emails, great primary sources. Thomas and I can make a quality documentary relating the influence of large-scale events like World War II and the USSR's expansionism to a smallest nation. Now, if you do not think the idea will work, we can choose a different subject matter. Whatever topic we explore, it will not disappoint. Your student, C.H. Henry. In response, I received a resounding yes. So I popped an email to Prince Michael, who was elated to convene virtually across the Atlantic. Bouncing off a physics test, I recharged my endorphins with Prince Michael's anecdotes. The interview was lengthy, so condensing our conversation into a 15-minute documentary was challenging. Prince Michael's narrative even boosted my creativity into formulating a 20-page, 8-song score for an original musical comedy. I'll be the king, and you are my queen. Can't you see it now? I'll paint you a scene. Have you studied much of ladies and lords, kingdoms guarded with cannons and swords? Now they built their castles and watched over the land. Well, here's a fortress anchored down in the sand. I call it Sealand, a kingdom of our own. I'm making our own government. The flag is being sewn. Now, you want a passport or Sealandic pound? Do what you want when you have your own crown. Packed with danger, imprisonment, and occupation, the documentary earned an A+ in my class, and Prince Michael granted me Baron of the Principality of Sealand. Thank you.
"Where are you from?" a teacher in Bogota, Colombia asked me. I replied, "Nashville, Estados Unidos, United States." He then turns to Martin, my host for the international exchange, and he asks, "En serio, de donde es él? Korea?" Seriously, where is he from? Korea? Questions like these don't bother me anymore because I've come to realize that only I can define who I am. Growing up, I dealt with many microaggressions like this one, but I understood their inquiries because our family was different from the average Americans. I wanted to fit in, but that was quite difficult being a Chinese family in Nashville. My family wanted to assimilate themselves into American society while also maintaining our Chinese identity. As a child, I was forced to attend Chinese language classes every Saturday afternoon. My parents hoped I would become fluent and engage in meaningful conversation with my grandparents, so I spent hours in Saturday classes being bombarded with piles of homework. Whenever my friends got together on weekends, I would frequently be left out because I had Chinese school. In the Chinese language classes, everyone was Chinese, creating a sense of isolation from the rest of my friends. My parents kept me from socializing with my other friends and hoped that I would conform to Chinese norms. I struggled being a Chinese kid who did not want to be Chinese, and this conflict made me question who I was. I wasn't white, but I didn't want my entire identity to be Chinese, so who was I? This journey through self-discovery made a turn in 6th grade when I decided to pick up Spanish, and my parents allowed me to drop Chinese in exchange. Spanish quickly became my favorite subject in school, and I would use every opportunity I had to speak it. As I grew older, I began to get involved in the Hispanic community, and I volunteered to help out with Paragon Mills, a weekly tutoring project where we teach English to adults and tutor their children. The immigrants coming to Paragon Mills every week reminded me of my parents. They worked extremely hard for a better life in America, and by learning English, hoped they would give their children a better future. Working with these people made me realize how comparable my struggle was to theirs, and instead of running from this identity as an outsider, I decided to embrace it. After years of not speaking Chinese, I decided it was time to pick it up again as a freshman. I began spontaneously speaking Chinese to my parents, which brought them great surprise and joy because they had assumed that I had forgotten everything. All these years of Chinese language classes seemed to have paid off. Instead of tossing a whole race to the side and looking down upon them, I've tried to reintegrate myself into the Chinese community. I love participating in Chinese cultural events, and last year I went to the Chinese New Year Festival at the local zoo to learn more about the culture that I'd spent my entire life resisting. Learning Spanish has helped me find a great community. Studying a language is not about grades, being fluent, or learning another language just for the fun of it, but about reaching out to a community and making connections with different types of people. In rejecting my Chinese roots, I neglected to make connections with the greatest community of them all, my family. Throughout my journey of self-discovery, my family was there supporting me each step of the way. Without my family, I would never have been able to come to terms with who I am. In serio, I am a Chinese kid who has found a balance between embracing his roots and learning to love different cultures.
Thanks, Alex and CH and Andrew and Eman. In just a bit, we'll have the results. I wanted to remind you about tomorrow morning is the mother-son breakfast, as I think most of you know. You've gotten information already, but the highlights for now are simply that breakfast will begin at 7:30, program at 8. We should finish by about 9:30. Classes begin at 10, and we have an abbreviated schedule with the following blocks A, B, D, E, F, C, G, H. So A, B, D, E, F, C, G, H, about 40-minute classes. Now Ashton and Thomas are going to come up and tell you about the One Acts this week.
What's up, guys? Coming up this Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, the Senior Studio Theater class is putting on The Future Real House Husbands of Belle Meade, the 2021 student-directed One Acts. Now, there are 4 short plays, and 3 of them are from original scripts that cover a little bit of everything. So there's Jack vs. Jill, directed by Thomas Peterson and Jake Steigelfest. It's Just a Prank Bro, written and directed by C.H. Henry. Heist Hijinks, written by Joseph Bilardo and directed by himself and Max Giorgio. And Detention Homicide, written and directed by Ashton Terrell.
Performances run April 14th through 16th, so Wednesday at 4, Thursday and Friday at 6:30 in the Pascal Theater. Tickets are free to MBA students, faculty, and staff, and $5 for all others at the door. Come show out and support your buddies as they perform the last show of the 2021 school year. Thank you.
Thanks, Thomas and Ashton. Next week, you'll get information about Endado, which is 2 Saturdays from now. There will even be a car show there. Mr. Frederick will have information, as well as Carter Plato. If you want to talk to either of them about that, we'll have some announcements next week regarding that issue. On my right now, we'll hear some blues music written by Paul Butts. William and Morrow are accompanying him. Join me in welcoming them now for that music. Thanks very much, all three of you, for performing today. So I'll ask Ms. Maddox to come up right now and announce the winner.
As we were getting ready for this competition today, I was reflecting on this year, and it's been a crazy, crazy year, and we all know that. But one of the things I'm going to say, and I'm really, really grateful for as I reflect on this year, is the opportunity to work with the senior class. They've had a lot of challenges, but they have been so positive and so focused on moving forward. So kudos to the seniors for being leaders and how to deal with this strange year. I'm also going to say that the reality of this process, college admissions has changed just like everything else has. So a lot of you have read about that. Test scores have been optional at schools across the country. There's also a lot of other parts of the application that have been impacted as well. And you all know this, activities are not normal. A lot of other places, grades aren't normal. A lot of students aren't in school right now. So we have a lot to be grateful for. But as I think and I reflect on the year and I think about what happened in college admissions, what I know to be true is what I have known to be true for a long time. Essays matter. The words that you all share with admissions offices is super, super important and remains even more important, actually has become more important in this time. So what you do in your grades, with your grades in classes every day matters. The choices that you make outside of that are also super important. I will also say that recommendations matter, so what you do in your classes is very important as well. I want to say thank you to these guys, to Emmanuel, Andrew, CH, and Alex for sharing your stories with us. I think they did a great example, or their essays represent so much of how you can share what happens in your daily life, to show about your interest in a particular topic or a different area, like CH did with his essay about history, and how that also tied into his interest in theater. The other boys, Andrew, the reality is hearing your struggles and your challenges, the things that none of us would have known if you hadn't shared that essay with us, because you're pretty amazing and you do a lot of great work, and you've been on this podium a lot this year. So that was really important. And Emmanuel and Alex telling us your story, your identity, and who you are has been so important. So thank you all for sharing. with us and showing us what we can do with the essays and what you all can do with the essays moving forward. All of that being said, I wish you all could be winners. You all actually are winners. But for this particular contest, CH, you are the winner for the College Essay Contest.
So Stephen Bess has provided a prize for the contest, which you'll get later. CH, congratulations, and thanks to all four of you for participating today. Lastly, just a few comments. Very proud of the following hockey individuals. They were recognized by the Tennessean. In the first team, Mid-State, Luke Haley and Will Morrison. In the second team, Mid-State, Tyler Lobb and Cooper Green. And Coach of the Year was our coach, J.P. Dumont. Let's give them a round of applause. And expected congratulations to the Tennessee Division II Basketball Coach of the Year, Mr. Kevin Anglin. Let's give him a round of applause. Lots of activity last week. Our swim and dive team are set, we think, to be in first place for the region. They've got to continue to do well. Lots of victories in lacrosse. One loss this week against a tough Baylor team. 4 victories in soccer. Victory in golf, a number of victories in baseball except some games against Lipscomb. Great track meet, shotgun pulled off a win. Our tennis team had 2 wins this past week, one down in Chattanooga against Baylor, one here locally against Ravenwood. They've got a big match tomorrow. Ultimate Frisbee team lost a close match 14-11. Thanks very much. Have a great week.